Joining me now to discuss these proposed U.S. measures and their potential impact on China and others is Allan Friedman from the Brookings Institute. He's a fellow in governance studies there and research director of their Center for Technology Innovation. And one of the things I've found in the news business, Allan, is that everybody wants everything to be black and white, and generally life is very, very gray. So to make these kind of blanket statements, this is bad, that's good, it's really not the best way to go, is it?
It isn't. And the challenge of understanding this policy is to understand how it plays into the broader picture. We have international cooperation, but at the same time we have competition, and there are different concerns about different aspects of cybersecurity. And looking at this type of restriction really involves understanding how these different parts of cybersecurity all fit together.
In the circulatory system, as we look at an economy, there's a lot of interdependency, and when you target one company, perhaps in China, you could also be impacting a company here in the United States. I mean, all the players are kind of interconnected in many respects.
Very much so, and part of the problem is in a globalized supply chain, it's also unclear when we talk about this country is involved with this company, or this company is based in this country. What do we mean by that? Try buying something that doesn't have a piece of hardware that's built in China, or that doesn't have some software that was designed someplace in the global supply chain. It's very difficult to actually assign country relationships.
I was at an event last week, a ribbon cutting in New York for the China Investment Federation, and they're supporting bilateral trade. And one of the speakers talked about the biggest impediment to trade, and he said it is the U.S. government. And what a lot of people, I don't think about is you walk through this process, and you may have a partnership between a U.S. government, a U.S. company and a Chinese company, and they want to work on this, and they go through all these steps, and then they get to the final hurdle, and the final hurdle being the U.S. government, and boom, it's swatted away.
So I think this is a challenge when we talk about trade, because the laws of trade often stop working when we start dealing with national security. This isn't unique to the United States or China. It's a global phenomenon. In fact, if you look at an organization like the OECD or the ITO, they have explicit carve-outs that say, listen, as soon as it becomes a national security issue, the trade bets are off. And that's why we've seen purchases by American companies of Chinese firms have been banned by the Chinese government. We've seen the American government come in and say, listen, we're not sure we trust this for reasons of national security. And this is one of the challenges of cybersecurity, is understanding, as we understand the nature of IT, what are governments allowed to do, and what are they allowed to do, but maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should err on the side of trade.
Well, we heard a gentleman in that story saying that geographic blacklisting is not the answer. So what is the answer?
Well, it depends on what the question is. If we're dealing with cybercrime, it's clearly international cooperation. If we're dealing with something where one country considers it criminal, another country may not, so then it's negotiations and understanding the values that are in the internet. If we're dealing with something like international espionage, then the answer is dealing with international norms and understanding what the rules of the game are. And the challenge is not to lump all of those different issues together under the heading of cybersecurity, because that also allows countries to get away with things that they otherwise shouldn't. And the challenge is, when we're dealing with trade, it's easy to shoehorn a lot of different issues into the heading of trade, whether it is this provision we saw in the American Continuing Resolution, or whether it's policies we've seen from a number of countries that say, listen, in the interest of cybersecurity, we're going to need to see your source code. We're going to need to see your secrets before we trust you. And that also works against trade.
Then I guess it depends on what glasses you put on. If you put on your glasses, it's national security, but somebody else can put glasses on, and this is protectionism. And I guess it's how you view it depending upon what player you are.
Well, and we also need frameworks. We need intellectual tools to actually adjust our sights and say, listen, we're willing to accept that there are certain provisions, certain cases, but there are other cases that, listen, a country may say this is national security, but enough of the international community is going to rally around and say, no, we don't think that those are the rules of the road that we should play by in the global economy.
It is a thorny issue. Allan Friedman, thank you so much for coming in and offering your insights.